Pitch to Pro is the official podcast of Ozark United FC. This will be our platform to tell our story about the club and the special place that we call home, Northwest Arkansas. This is a journey. We want to bring you along for the ride. We'll share what's going on behind the curtain, help educate the community at large about soccer, our league, and give updates on the progress of the club along the way. Together, we'll explore and unpack our journey to professional soccer, the magic that is NWA, our community, and talk all things soccer from on the pitch to behind the scenes, telling the story of our club. Pitch to Pro podcast is proudly sponsored by podcastvideos.com. Podcastvideos.com is Northwest Arkansas's premier podcast recording studio. Equipped with industry-leading equipment, the recording studio and services save you time, money, and hassle. They are dedicated to helping you create, record, and publish high-quality podcasts for your audience. Be sure to check them out today at podcastvideos.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pitch to Pro podcast. I'm your host, Wes Harris, Managing Director for Ozark United FC, Northwest Arkansas's professional soccer club, playing in the United Soccer League. Today, we've got a bit of a special edition episode on deck for everybody. I am joined by our very own Mr. Warren Smith, co-founder of Ozark United FC. Warren, thanks for joining me today, sir.
Thank you, Wes. Sorry about your arm.
Hey, you know, every now and again, you got to get reminded about how old you are and how not young you are anymore. So officially retired from men's league soccer.
It happens. The game leaves everyone.
That's right. Jamie Carragher, I think, has a famous saying, leave the football before the football leaves you, and I didn't listen.
That's funny.
But yeah, hopefully back on the men here. But, you know, before we jump in, let's remind folks, and maybe for new listeners, you know, we had some pretty big, awesome news this week and releasing some new renderings, new stadium site and all of that. But I want to give people and just remind them who you are, your background. You know, you've got a long, illustrious career in sports. You won't say that, but I will. You're too humble. And just how it's led you here to NWA. How did you come here into NWA in this project?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and want you to know what a great job you're doing for us. And
thank you.
Really excited about kind of where we are in this project, especially now. But I started coming here when my grandmother moved here in 1990, back when we used to fly into Tulsa and drive a couple hours, and then fly into Tulsa, drive a couple hours, and you know, on this damn highway that was being built that took forever, Highway 49. And so I've, you know, been watching this area grow for a long time. I'm coming at least once a year. And then my parents moved here in 2006, 2003 or 6, I can't remember. Anyways, you know, because they're here, we started coming more often. And they fell in love with it, you know, and we're just... if you spend time here, it's hard not to fall in love with, right? So yeah, really became to appreciate it, and really wasn't thinking of anything professionally. Had an opportunity to help a little bit on the baseball front early in conversations, and, you know, helped direct, you know, to affiliated programs. But anyways, watched this area grow and kept looking at what the possibilities could be. And as I'm developing projects in other markets, you know, still not really paying attention to it, you know, and then all of a sudden, I think Northwest Arkansas came into its own.
Is it?
And when it became a place where people were not just enjoying themselves here, but they came confident in themselves here.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and that then they also are starting to realize that they're competing with other cities. And so as that happened, you know, it just happened to be that Chris connected with me with his great idea. And it was a good time for me to actually, you know, it was at first a bad time, you know, because I was in the midst of San Diego, but I started to think more about it. The league asked me to play more of a startup role for them, and it just happened to be that this, after really digging deep into the research, it made a lot of sense, right? 60% of the population's not from here. Soccer is their number one sport, you know, generally from wherever they're from. The age groups are young, they're wealthy, or at least making good income. And generally people just had a really good attitude about living here, which is the most important thing for us to actually pride in your city.
Yeah.
And then tapping into that, right? So that's really what led me here, and I'm really excited to be here. It's been a long project, right? So it's been a couple years since we announced our intentions. I want to remind people this is not my first rodeo, right? You mentioned that, but this would be officially my 6th project. And my first project took me 6 years.
Wow.
My first real soccer startup project, the Sacramento Republic Football Club, took 3 years, right? So here we are coming up on year 2.
Yeah.
We learned a lot through the process, but we've also accomplished a lot. We've been able to, build a brand around what the people really cared about. They cared about celebrating this region. They cared about the name Ozark. They cared about being united. They cared about how these 4 towns really became one community, and then the colors and the name and the celebration of Arkansas just really kind of seemed to unite. They for us, as location.
Yeah,
we thought we had a really good project in the very beginning, but it became small very quickly. We also had some restrictions. There was an REA, basically preventing us from being able to develop, retail, which we frankly need around a stadium, right? So,
and tell people a little bit about why that matters in and around a stadium. I mean, we've said it a little bit, but in terms of being the success of stadiums, especially in our league, in and around other entertainment options, and why that's important.
I would ask everyone to pause for a minute and think about their experience in sporting events. Okay, you go to the University of Arkansas games, you're probably doing some tailgating, right? You go to some NBA games in Oklahoma City or Memphis, you're probably enjoying those downtown locations and actually being entertained in and around that event. And if you're going to baseball games, pretty much the same, right? Because most of them are downtown, or you're tailgating, right? But no matter what, you're extending your experience.
Yeah, it's not just the game, right?
That's right. And as these games have gotten longer, our sport has been the same start to stop. It's soccer is basically 2 45-minute halves with a 15-minute halftime, so it's 2 hours start and stop. And people want to be entertained between, on industry average, 4 and 5 hours. So if you're going to want to be entertained, we got to put a stadium in a location where it's easy to walk and be entertained. So when we first, our first property, we thought that we had it because we're going to be close to a lot of that. But we also learned that there was not stuff that we could control. So for us, this new location is really about, being able to create a sense of place.
Yeah.
Create a sense where people can come and enjoy not just the match, but things around the match.
No, and I think that that's a great point. It's we were close to entertainment, but it also, there were things that could we help contribute and build upon even more, that entertainment district and feel. So I think that is a great insight there too on the how do people like to be entertained for how long and why that's important.
Well, and why they move, right? They're probably thinking about, gosh, she had a good location. Why? But also this is better freeway access, better access and egress to the facility. There's more ways in and out. So again, we've been thinking a lot about our guest experience, and that experience is not just inside of the stadium. It's how you get there. It's what happens around it, and so on and so forth.
No, that's a great point. And I mean, let's dive in a little bit. You said, this isn't your first rodeo. Let's talk about, if you would, some of your prior projects. And, they are, you say this internally all the time. These projects are hard. They take a village. They are never linear. If you could share just some of your experiences on some of your other projects and how maybe, how are we tracking here in NWA? Why are you confident in our project here as it relates to some of those and where we stand? I don't know. That's kind of a loaded question, but.
Well, first, I'm confident because of this community and who they are, what they've told us what they've wanted. It's not like we're coming into a market where people don't want this.
Is it?
They want it. And that's number one. Number two, you really look at the DNA of the sport. It matches really well with this community. It really does.
Yeah.
A lot of people might not, kind of the older Northwest Arkansanians, if I say that correctly.
Northwest Arkansans, I believe.
Thank you. They might think differently about that, but it's the people that live here now that have come here.
Yeah.
Definitely will feel it. And then it's like, every community is different, right? So this one is less familiar with the sport, less familiar with the sports as an asset class, less familiar with, frankly, how to get these things done, and generally, what it takes. But in every single case, when I say it takes a village, that means it really, the 7,500 people that we have on our database, the input that we get from our fans on social media. We've never really asked our fans to go out and do stuff, but as we now are going through the public process, as you know, we just received last night approval on the zoning for that site. But we're going to have a lot of public meetings around the stadium, and we're going to ask our fans to come to those, articulate their desires, and let the city council, the planning commission hear that. So, because it's their club.
Yeah.
It's, at the end of the day, Wes, you and I will be gone. They'll still be here, right? And they're helping to build this. In fact, they're helping to build their club. So when I say it takes a village, it really does. And it's our job to create a dynamic where they can participate. And we've done a good job of listening. Now we're going to start asking them to participate in different ways. You're aware of the Marshallese community and the event that they'll have. I'm sure you'll talk about that, but that's one where we can make a difference. So, that's kind of what we mean by it takes a village and it takes time. But at the end of the day, I'm sure you're going to ask questions on kind of where we are from a financial standpoint, but I'll follow your lead.
Yeah, and those are great thoughts and insights, and it's things that we talk about and feel confident about. But I think it's important for people to hear from somebody that's done this, been there in multiple different markets, has come up against different obstacles in these projects, to hear that level of confidence coming from you in our project and why. And in our community, and why we're so bullish on the feedback that we've gotten and the feelings that we feel about the project, and our fans are telling us how they're feeling about it too.
Yeah.
So is there ever a point in some of your past projects that these things are not linear, right? Like we have this stadium site move, and people don't necessarily know all the reasons for it, and they may think one way or another. But can you give some examples in past on, maybe it was Portland turnaround, maybe it was Sacramento getting started, and Rayleigh Field at the River Cats, or whatever it was. These things happen, right? And it's opportunities to learn and get better, and feed that into the project.
Yeah, it's I think it all boils back down to, though, how you operate as a business and listening to your clients. So my best example would be in the Sacramento Republic Football Club. It was 2012. We pulled the trigger, made an announcement that we were coming, and guess where we were going to play? We were going to play at a place called Hughes Stadium, which is at the Sacramento City College. 23,000 seats. Beautiful facility, but American football field with lines surrounded by a track. As we were talking to our customers, guess what I heard? Whatever you do, don't play on a field that has American football lines, has a track around it, and is artificial. And, I didn't know that. I didn't know why, right? But apparently it was all about being true to the sport. So we had to listen, and we didn't have all the answers, but it did lead to what became Bonnie Field, which is a modular facility that ultimately we built on the California State Fairgrounds in partnership with the State Fairgrounds. So it's somewhat similar here, except for the technologies have changed. It's so much greater. That was a $10 million project. This is going to be a $30 million project. So just stadium.
Yeah.
But what the fans told us, right? And so if you listen to your fans, you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
And it may take longer, it may take shorter, but as we start to get, let's be real. This is a community, and all communities have decision makers in the community, and people that have been in the community a lot longer, have a lot higher status, that ultimately somewhat control what happens in markets, right?
Mm-hmm.
The good news is they all seem very supportive, and I think we've got things really moving in the right way. But we are going to start, because we've been listening, asking our fans to articulate what they want.
So, and I think that's just a great model, and always something, don't overcomplicate it. Listen to your customer, which is a good, fresh reminder, even for me right now, sitting here talking to you, is don't overcomplicate it. Listen to what people want and try to go and execute the best that you can within the confines and constraints that you can deliver, and continue that process. It's iterative as you continue to build.
Business 101, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now in sports, imagine building a brand that's built by fans, and they feel that ownership because it is their club. It's just a magical experience. It really is, for them and for us, right? So
yeah, and we felt that throughout the brand process too. It's why we took our time with it and dedicated a ton of resources and time to it, because we knew we needed to get it right and needed to get that fan input. So let's, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about, a lot of people, we've almost come up on 2 years here.
July.
It'll be July, so we're still not quite there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But we've done a lot more than maybe what people realize, and a big part of that is going out and talking to different individuals and groups about ownership and investment.
Mm-hmm.
How do those conversations go? Share what you can in terms of kind of our process, and people want kind of to understand where we're at and what are those next steps. So we have to be respectful of individuals and their privacy, but whatever you can share in terms of bringing people under the tent, just a little bit on that front.
Sure. As you know, and as we've shared in the past, this is about getting people excited, getting them on board, and then showing momentum, and then proving the business model.
Mm-hmm.
So we're designing, building, flying the plane all at the same time.
And I think that's maybe a little bit different than maybe some people might think of in terms of process in other markets that they've seen, right? So share a little bit about that and why that's been a successful model for you in your other markets too.
So no disrespect to the great people in Lexington, Kentucky. I just did a tour there this weekend. Beautiful facility, similar, same manufacturers, similar system, but different, that we're trying to bring here. Very well, the league, goes to markets and tries to get wealthy people to actually say yes. And they did that. And they had a gentleman there that actually pulled the trigger and built a League One team. They advanced us to league or championship, and also put a Super League team. The problem is the stadium's empty. It's a beautiful facility. It's not empty. It's just not full. What we're doing is getting people excited, getting them on board, and proving the business model, and that proving the financial business model.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's how you get investment into the club. Okay, and all the people that we may have talked here that don't really understand sports might like what we're doing, but they think we're kind of a little bit crazy. Until they start to see the fact that we're actually meeting our objectives in the business model.
Hey.
To give an example, so there are two big sources of revenues that we actually have in professional sports. Obviously, ticket sales and sponsorships, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you know, we've done a really good job in getting people excited. We have 7,500 people on the list that want to potentially, be with us, right? My experience has shown that those people turn into roughly 40% of those people will buy season tickets. And of those, they'll have 2.4 tickets per person, right? So we're 2.4 times, what would 40% of 7,500 be? It's a little over 3,800, right? So like we're at 5,000 season tickets right now. So of the 5,000 seat venue that we are designing, we're already sold out. And as you know, we're looking at the possibility of delivering something bigger. So we're proving the tickets. We just also, in partnership with the Sporting Arkansas, have developed a youth program with them, and really just helping them advance the youth program for all of the Northwest Arkansas kids, making sure it's not just for Sporting Arkansas, but for all the kids, and did a really good job in our first year of that. We're also bringing a sponsorship deal to that's very interesting and we'll announce soon. So we're now proving the sponsorship side, right? And it's been my experience, and it won't be until we get the principal investor until after we get that naming rights agreement in place, okay? Whether it's the kid agreement or the stadium naming rights.
And for folks, those are generally the two largest.
That's right.
Both from value and holding hands and partnership outwardly to the community, but also ticket size.
That's right.
So, I think that's,
I didn't fully answer your question.
Yeah, keep going. I want you to keep going.
I want you to ask, but what we were, as you know, we also had a lot of local people to help to fund our startup.
Yes.
And so we haven't raised a money. We just don't have all of the stadium money that we are going to need.
Yeah.
And what we're hearing from them is they love what we're doing. We love the community. We want to make a difference. Keep going. And now as we're, we came to the market, we looked for the principal owner that ideally came from Northwest Arkansas.
Yeah.
That would be my perfect scenario because they know this community. Fans can develop a relationship with them. And ultimately, it may not be like a personal relationship, but it's going to feel like one. Right?
Yeah.
That's the owner of my club. And that person, they see out and about in the community, they get to say thank you. And that's magical, right? And we tried that. And obviously there's more than enough wealth here. But also, I would say that the people of that wealth here don't really understand professional sports as a business model. It has only recently become an asset class that is very powerful. As you are seeing valuations, go through the roof. NFL, great example. Even in our league, a team most recently traded above $100 million. You're starting to see just huge growth, right? So now what we're doing is going out to the national market because we have a real estate project. And what we are hearing from that community is they're very excited about the real estate, sports anchored, and ultimately helping to bring some additional revenues to them that ultimately they might not have got just through a stadium project.
Additional value proposition.
That's right.
And one that is understood, long time understood, and B, in a market that's growing, et cetera, like we don't need to talk about the real estate end of it, right? So I think that the combination of that is also not just for the national scale, but also potentially here in the local, especially if we get that when we get that lead domino to fall.
That's right.
They've all been, I think, really supportive and shared their support. Just maybe some hesitancy on being the lead domino.
That's right. And there are some things that are changing within the league in the United States Soccer Federation that could be favorable. Can't really get into the details of that, but let's just say the requirements of 35% may be going away here in the near future. And that just so the fans know that the principal owner needs to be 35% of the capital stack.
Yeah. So if you're talking, just team and stadium, what we shared is roughly $50 million project. you guys do the math. It's roughly in the $17-ish million. That's what we say and mean when we say principal owner. Somebody needs to have and represent at least that amount. They can take the whole thing down. They can take down half if they want majority ownership, and sometimes it happens. But in order to move forward, that's the mandate from the governing body of soccer in the U.S.
And there's some juggling that you can do, but generally, principally, that's exactly right.
Yeah. There's a lot of creativity, as I've learned.
Well, in soccer, there's a lot of creativity, right?
There is.
And that's really, we have to have the same creativity on the business side.
I love that analogy. There is. Soccer is one of, I just did, it's a bit of an aside, but I just did a coaching course over the weekend, continuing down my coaching licenses. And one of my fellow classmates, we talked about why we love the game. And he said it's one of the only games out there, or at least the one that he felt did it the most on a bit of a spectrum, where it is player led and less coach influenced. And so much, I think of that parallels into the business side, and the fans and the relationship with the club and how that is a different dynamic than other sports, and the creativity on the field, and your hands off and you have to be, there's no timeouts, all of those things. Anyway, I thought that you said that without me ever sharing that with you, and that was pretty interesting. But so it's not that the to kind of circle back to our conversation on kind of principal owner and ownership and how that is, we obviously couldn't do what we're doing if we hadn't raised money and had local ownership.
That's right.
We also, it's not like these projects can't be successful with a primary or somebody like that being maybe not from this market, but care deeply about the market and still coming in and being present and making sure that we're looking for that in a partner. So it's not a must make or break. It just is something that we would prefer to have, and that can also evolve over time as we prove success, right?
Well, yeah, Wes, let's just look at and be truthful, right? Most of the teams that are owned in the major league sporting markets are not owned by people that live in those markets.
Exactly.
Right? They're, Mr. Walton here probably cares deeply about Denver, maybe even more so now after he was able to acquire the Broncos, right? It's not, having good owners is the most important thing. But if we can have a local one, it's even a little bit better, right? So,
yeah, sure.
And as you know, we're hiring a firm that actually is that's family office oriented to help us actually really have really good conversations. Since they're really ultimately the biggest players, the family offices in real estate development. They also happen to be looking for the asset class.
And talk a little bit, if you can. I mean, it's so case by case and it varies. But just because maybe your primary is maybe not from the market, there could be limited partners that once they see that dominant, oh my gosh, I want to come in. And we've certainly had those conversations as well with local folks.
I really think that's where we're going to find most of the local people to come in. And it's very important that we actually have that primary owner, if he's from out of town or she's from out of town, to actually have somebody that they can stand with, right? Because they have those business relationships. They understand the politics, so we were going to surround the people with them. And as you know, a number of these families are very interested. They just want to see the principal first.
Sure. So, kind of you started talking about it, but maybe, what's next in terms of that conversation and kind of where do you see that going? You just kind of hit on it, but we are looking to kind of take the next level with this investment firm that kind of can help maybe accelerate that conversation. And
well, yeah, I mean, all I think folks need to know is that there's people, investment bankers or, ultimately organizations that actually, get compensated to actually connect and bring investment. So And this is a firm that has got a great reputation and one that we've hit it off with and just like a lot, and has had a lot of success in that area. So we're just starting that path, more to come on it. But ultimately, the more the people get excited about this, the more they support us at city council meetings. A couple things need to happen before somebody's going to come in.
Yeah.
Right? We need to get the stadium approved from the city.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get, ideally naming rights or a, KIP partnership of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to start actually converting, some of the folks, which we can't do until the stadium's approved,
Right.
on the list, to season tickets.
Yeah.
And then the rest is going to be kind of like dominoes. Right?
Knock-on effect. That's right.
That's right.
So yeah, let's get into, I think people want to know now is, and let's talk about it. We need to extend the timeline. When we initially launched, we said targeted to start playing 2026. With this move on the site, and we don't need, let's be clear, we don't need the development to be done to start playing.
That's right. The stadium will be first.
The stadium will be first. So we're not waiting, just to be very, very clear and make sure we're transparent there. We're not waiting for the development to then build the stadium. The stadium will be the very first thing on the docket, and make sure that is, our timeline is not delayed by anything with the development surrounding it.
We may choose to do a building at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's some efficiencies there.
Sure.
But we definitely, this will be a project that's built out over time.
Mm-hmm.
Likely not, right away.
Not all delivered at the same time.
Back to, I think, where you're going on the starting of the season. I mean, hey, listen, we didn't know exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We had hopes. The good news is we're still using modular facilities. They still take 8 months to build. Once you move your dirt, so it's less than a year project, which is the great news. If you look at where we are from a timing standpoint, we get approvals, within the 6 month period. Then that, the dominoes can, start to finally fall. We never really got final approval on that other stadium location, right? So
we did, and we were kind of far down the path, but that
we were close.
I think that's also a good thing for us, is we've got such a great working relationship with the city, and all those involved, and our partners, and that are helping us to kind of develop this and do all the pre-development work. And the stadium is largely staying the same. We're not all of a sudden upheaval and overhauling the stadium design. Right. So all of the great feedback and all of the things that we heard that went into the stadium design, it's kind of lift, and then, you may have to tweak a couple things just based on the layout and all of that kind of thing, but largely the same stadium design. But we do have to kind of go through a lot of the permitting process and working with the city. But we've got a great working relationship with them. They're very familiar with the project now. So that hopefully shouldn't take maybe as much time with all the back and forth and the questions. But
I'd take it a step further. I think they're very excited about this development project. We had a meeting yesterday where they expressed that, and they want to see. Obviously the zoning passed last night. That's very favorable. Could not do it without the zoning, right? So, but back to the timetable, I think originally listening, there's a lot of happening in soccer. So our goal is to really kind of, in the beginnings, being optimistic and hopeful. And could it have happened? Yes. But 2026 is a big year in professional soccer. Yeah. Being able to, take advantage of that is very helpful, right? But now, because of the timetable, it's going to take probably at least 2027. I'm more comfortable, as you heard last night, 2028. But there's also, keep in mind, we're two projects that play two different seasons, right? So
right.
Two teams. And so one that starts in March, one that starts in August. So we've got some flexibility on kind of which team comes first. Let's get approvals. Let's, finalize the capital stack, and then start building, and they're working towards building. And then we're, proving out the business model even further, getting people excited. Here's one thing I know, if I can. Professional soccer is going to happen in this region. And if it doesn't happen with us, we have laid all the groundwork for that to happen in a very impactful way. But I do believe it's going to happen with us. I'm really excited about, I'd still be here.
Yeah.
Right? The thing about me is that I'm I'm a dog on a bone that can't get off it, right? So, and I have not had one project that I've gotten involved with that I've not been successful, okay? Every day you're assessing risk. Every day you're looking at where we are in the process. Every day, as you know, we talk internally, what's working, what's not, how far are we? And every day it seems like we keep coming up with the same answer, Yeah, today was hard, but doggone it, look how close we are. Or doggone it, look what we did today. So anyways, really excited. I'm sorry to be talking so much.
No, it's great. I mean, it just shows the passion that's there for the project in the area. And I mean, I get to see it every day with you. But I think it's great for the community to see it as well from, again, somebody that has done this multiple times successfully in multiple markets, multiple sports leagues, to feel that passionately and strongly about our project here is reassuring, especially for somebody that's working in it every day. My wife certainly takes some solace in that, right?
Yeah.
But I think, this kind of pivot and the opening of the scope, I mean, we've heard so much from people in terms of how they want us to engage, and that this needs to be more than just a pro men's and women's soccer team. And I think that this is one part of that. It's a big part of that, the shift in kind of the development, sports anchor district, and that being a big trend in sports anyways. But
yeah,
and in terms of how we deliver value and to the community, to the investment component of that as well. But we're going to be everywhere and so involved. And this league is such a grassroots league, and the relationship with the fans is so special. I think we can kind of end it maybe a little bit here is what's next for us. I mean, we kind of talked about it already, but what can people expect from us, kind of going forward? And, we may not have all of the answers right now, guys, but we are trying to, as hopefully you guys can see, be open and honest with you guys on where we're at, and continue to listen to you as we go forward. But I don't know, maybe some closing thoughts on where we're going and what people can see from us.
Well, listen, I mean, we started, right? We have a grassroots team that is out growing relationships, right? So they're getting people, answering questions, getting people, excited about what we're ultimately doing, getting names, starting the relationship process. Once they come in with us, we start and communicating with them and actually continuing to grow those relationships. I think that's where you're going to see the bulk of the change for us, is like really trying to understand our customers a little bit further, what they want, what they don't want, preferences, what's your favorite beer, seriously, I mean, and then making sure it seems like local beer is very, very important, right? So, all right, what do you mean by that, right? So how do we actually do that? Do we have one big local, or do we have, as many taps from locally as we can, right? So just a small example. And then being out everywhere, because really it's all about relationships, right? So we just happen to have a brand that we need to develop and want to develop, relationships with tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Right. Sacramento Republic, it's got over 100,000 people now in their database, which we will have eventually. But right now we have 7,500, right? So, which is a great number to start with. So a lot of grassroots marketing, mainly because that's who professional soccer is. It's like getting, out like we do in soccer. You go out and you play. You go out into the leagues, or you go out in the parks, right? But you go out, right? So we're going to go out, and then just keep building on that, right? So that's number one. I think number two is continue to be, I think we want to do a better job updating and being open and vulnerable and sharing kind of where we are in this process, engaging. And then just like celebrating as back to the Marshallese, right? So second largest or largest population of Marshallese people outside of the Marshall Islands, right? They were the last, we'll tell the group, they're the last
UN nation to have a national soccer team. But that's changing now. And big shout out to Lloyd Owers and his team, Woody Watson here locally, Matt Webb. I'm sorry, Matt, if I got your last name wrong. Matt, and co, the whole team doing phenomenal work. And they're going to host their first ever kind of international tournament here locally in Northwest Arkansas in August. And, you know, how do we help support them and support the game, right? You know, we're going to, you know, heads up, Lloyd, you're going to get a phone call on how we can talk about it, right? So
yeah, we want to make a difference for them, right?
Exactly.
So we can have our fans, and if we can come and have our fans come and do something for them, you know, they're going to have their first international match played in Arkansas.
So cool.
Yeah.
What a moment, right?
Yeah, if we can help bring the resources enough to maybe they can play at the University of Arkansas if they would let them, or, you know, we'll find a place. If not, you know, there's great high schools here with great soccer fields, but nonetheless, they're going to play, right? And that's a very important community for us. We want to make a difference for them. And so that is how we're going to grow this brand. And that is what we're going to do to be successful, is to continue doing things that make a difference in this.
It all hits back to our mission vision and using the sport. You know, yes, it's soccer, that's great, but using it for a way and a vehicle to do good in our community and make it a better place to live, work, play.
Amen.
So, well, Warren, any other last thoughts that you want to leave people with? Or I think we've had a great convo, great update, but we keep onward, we keep going.
Yes. So, listen, I think it's important to really look at the timetable. When we knew we needed to pivot, it was June of last year?
June of last year when we started having those conversations.
May and June, late May. And at that time, we went back to our site selection process. We're able to find a piece, but then we had to assemble a bunch of pieces, right? And that took time. And
very different than the first time around.
Exactly right.
One owner.
That's right.
Right. So that also is for folks that were kind of like, where is it?
Yep.
That's a big piece. That takes a lot of time. If you've ever bought a house or anything, that's one lot with one owner. We did it with almost double digits.
And I want to say thank you to those landowners, because they ultimately care deeply about what we're trying to accomplish. And they loved what we're doing, what we're about, and the difference that we're making in the community. So, which is amazing to us, right? So anyways, long story, you know, so it was really a year into the process, and where we knew we needed to pivot, and it just took some time. I hope and I believe that we're just going to be able to accelerate that now, because now we control our own destiny. The last thing I want to say, this is your team, everybody. This is your team. We need you to participate. I want to create a movement, man, because when people come to soccer matches and the hellbenders are just like yelling and screaming and having a great time singing songs, those non-soccer fans become soccer fans immediately, right? So let's speak up as soccer fans, those that know the game, those that love what we're doing. Let's speak up together, right? So when we ask you, I'm hopeful that you can participate, because it's about creating that movement. Yeah. Because that movement can be really powerful. We can make a difference together. As you know, one of our big long-term objectives is to build a true soccer complex, right? To be an economic driver for the region, to actually get some of these very large events that are going to Kansas City and Dallas not coming here.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City's adding 24 fields to their portfolio this year.
Yeah.
You know, that's that's something I think that we can do. And you know, we can't do it without people speaking up.
No. And I mean, we've already even started working with a company, sports facilities company, to even start looking into feasibility of that. I want to make sure we hit on that, because that's also a big part of, you know, what we've heard from people, recognize, us recognizing that. But also I want you guys to understand, we have heard you, we get it. We need fields in Northwest Arkansas, even without us. We just need it, period. There's not enough at all levels of sport, but especially soccer. And you guys have said, hey, can you help deliver this? Can you help be a leader there? We have started to look into that. Yes, there is a need, but it doesn't happen without your support and you guys speaking up, especially with community leaders, public officials, et cetera. And we'll continue to, you know, share in how you can help support those efforts as we go. But I'm glad you brought that up, Warren. That's another big part of, you know, the roadmap and things that we know are important to folks here in the community. So,
yeah, I mean, if you look at Arkansas's soccer participation growth, there's no way these leagues can serve the public without substantial growth in these facilities. And they're hard to do, even at that, just building fields, right? Or maintaining fields.
It is.
So,
yeah.
But I do believe that we'll be able to make a very significant difference in that area.
I do too. We certainly have some land for it out here.
Yeah. Well, so as we close, I just want to say thank you for being such a believer, such a fan of all that we're doing, and being, you know, somebody that is true to our values, because that is really the most important thing that we can do, is do and say, or say and do what we are trying to do.
And say we believe in there.
Do after we say.
Say what is it? Mean what you say, do what you say, or something like that. I don't know. Whatever it is, living into it. I appreciate it, Warren. Thank you guys for believing in me and bringing me along for the ride, man.
Last shout out, because we didn't mention Chris's name much, but, you know, gosh, he cares deeply about this community, and
that's a fantastic,
and really wants us to do this right. And he's very still very active, as you know. We talk every day, and really appreciate all that he has done to actually grow relationships and articulate, you know, why this is so important in this region. I can only be here every couple of weeks, but he's here every well, not every day because of his work, but as close as he can be.
Yeah. Big shout out to Chris and his efforts. I mean, even, you know, back to conversations back with Jake and all of that kind of thing to help deliver this. I mean, it's such an amazing project, and look where we are now, and sharing, and hopefully everybody feels the same way, and onward and upward we go. So Warren, thanks so much for jumping on and joining me here today. I think that's going to do it for this episode of Pitch to Pro. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to catch all of our episodes on pitchtopro.com, or look for Pitch to Pro on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts for more content. Until next time, Northwest Arkansas, cheers.
Amen.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Pitch to Pro podcast. Be sure to tune in again in 2 weeks for the next installment, and check out the Stoppage Time series for a recap of today's episode. Be sure to find us at Pitch to Pro on YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Until next time, Northwest Arkansas, cheers.